The core experience of Overwatch has changed a lot recently. Season 15 brought perks, Season 16 brought hero bans, and finally, Season 17 has delivered us map voting. Now, those first two have been talked about to death by myself and other creators, so I wanted to focus my efforts in on the most recent addition to the competitive experience. Map voting is a great system that I think we never should have gotten. In order to fully explain what I mean by this, I need to do a quick breakdown of how Overwatch picks your map. Overwatch has never randomly rolled one of the maps in the pool. Before map bans, it had a bias towards the maps you haven't played on recently. Have you ever wondered why it's exceedingly rare to play a map that you just played 1, 2, 3, even 4 games ago? It's because the algorithm weighs it extremely low in the pick. This basically goes for everyone in your game and picks off of an average of the entire lobby. This does a number of things for the player experience that you may not see at first glance. The variety ensures that things won't get stale. You'll play on a variety of map archetypes and game modes. While you may be bummed that you can't roll your favorite map twice in a row, remember that also prevents you from rolling a bad map multiple times as well. And finally, this system forces you to learn how to play all different types of styles. You may only like or be good at Brawl, but you will be forced to play on Gibraltar or Dorado, and you'll need to adapt. Whether that's changing heroes or playstyle or whatever, you're forced to improve if you want to win. Part of good game design is adding conflict. Conflict with the maps is not inherently a bad thing because you learn to overcome it. Overwatch is not a game that you play the same thing over and over and over again for thousands of hours. It's a game about reaction and adaptation when you really boil things down. So that's how the old system worked, but the new system still incorporates that old bias into the mix. 2 of the 3 options you see are maps that your lobby hasn't played on recently, and the final one is one that's completely random. In theory, this allows for both that mandated variety while potentially opening up more opportunities to play maps that you might like. That sounds great on paper, but is that really how this works in practice? You may have heard me throw around the term map archetype, and by that I really mean what style of play is primarily viable or played on a certain map. Is it poke? Is it brawl? Is it dive? Maybe it's hybrid. Maybe it's none of those. Let's run a thought experiment using brawl as an example here because I think most of the community feels comfortable on those comps and characters. Let's say that in every lobby you are in, a brawl map is chosen. Lijiang first, then Kings, Suravasa, then Shambali, then New Junk, Antarctic Peninsula, so on and so forth. By that 7th game, it's getting a lot more likely that you're able to roll Lijiang again and continue this cycle of only picking brawl. In theory, if you played Lijiang at that point, then King's Row becomes just as likely as Lijiang was in the last roll, and so on and so forth. And on top of that, that truly random option only increases the likelihood that you're able to continue this streak and not break the cycle at all. This is a completely exaggerated example, of course, but with my experience so far, it really is easy to play the same maps and map archetypes 80, maybe even 90% of the time, which I really don't think is a good thing. I went back through as far as my history could allow me, and between quick play and comp, I have only played 21 of the 31 maps in the pool. Almost 33% of the maps have just been completely eliminated for me. And on top of that, in the 46 games I've played recently, nearly half that time has been on the same 6 maps. 6 maps. And 3 of those are Rialto, Route 66, and Dorado. Like, what are we doing here? So basically, from personal experience, I am not getting the variety that I want. I have played Antarctic Peninsula 4 times over the past 2 days. Not that I don't like that map, but even for the maps that I like, it starts getting boring after a while. So I want to say, like, this is personal experience, right? It's not necessarily reflective of everybody, but the fact that this experience can and has happened, I think is a problem. The thing that I have noticed a lot is not about the system itself, it's about how you guys, the community, have picked. There is a crazy bias for old maps. Overwatch is an aging game and has gone through many different eras of design philosophy, and in my opinion, those eras are the most stark when you look at the map design. Launch maps are largely focused on pushing through tough chokes and defenses as a team. Later Overwatch 1 maps focus less on those chokes and more on longer, wider maps with less usable cover. Launch Overwatch 2 maps largely follow suit with that idea as well, with a little bit more room to flank and get around. And finally, modern Overwatch 2 maps fully embrace multiple angles and flank routes, with each point having a multitude of ways to attack. I want to say I don't think that any one era has the worst pool of maps. There are good ones sprinkled in wherever you go, but it's no secret that the game has changed faster than the maps can keep up. Many of the older Overwatch maps were not made or updated with the modern standards of gameplay that we have now. These can be really frustrating to play on in some scenarios, even for some of the maps that have been reworked in the past. And to boot, a lot of the older maps are very polarizing, meaning that they favor one style a lot more than the others. Ones where dive is the only thing that's viable, or ones where snipers reign supreme. Map voting, and to a lesser extent, hero bans, are designed to alleviate these frustrations more often, and they definitely have, don't get me wrong. Yet, tell me please why, when given the choice between Atlas, Antarctic Peninsula, and Dorado, my random Reinhardt main is dead set on dying in the streets of Mexico. In my experience, in solo queue specifically, there have been so many times where the entire lobby completely ignores push or flashpoint to then play a shitty Overwatch 1 launch map and then force the heroes that would have been better on those other game modes. Not once have I voted for Gibraltar, Dorado, Hollywood, Route 66, or Rialto, and somehow like 30% of my maps have been played on one of those. And a majority of that time I've been playing with a 5-stack, none of which are voting for those maps either. My spicy hot take here is that I think a large part of the community has been conditioned against the newer maps, when for the most part, those are the maps that I think plays to the larger community's strengths. These new maps are less polarizing, so it's much easier to get away with characters that are suboptimal. So in theory, if you are a Roadhog one-trick, you'd much rather play on Runasapi than on Gibraltar. Yet for whatever reason, we still just keep showing up on these maps that are not as fun. They're a little more frustrating because people don't want to play the newer game modes. It's not 2022 anymore. Push is way better than it was at launch. Flashpoint is literally getting reworked in the mid-season, and I don't even think it was that bad to begin with. You're allowed to have preferences, maps that you like and maps that you don't like, but I think we need to reevaluate some of these older maps as a community, because some of them do not hold up, and specifically don't hold up with the ways you play the game now. Now is not the time for that big discussion. I may make a video later on down the line and I'll finally shit talk Kings Row for you guys, but right now I want to talk about my final point, psychology. Yeah, I know, call me Spilo or something, but the fact of the matter is that I think map voting can feel really bad, even if it's a net positive. When you get a bad map without map voting, you think to yourself, god damn it. Well, it's fine. We can ban the OP heroes and then it won't roll again for a while. Seems pretty sound. It's an inevitability, so you go on with your day. Plain and simple. But with map voting, if the 1 in 10 chance rolls on a map you didn't like, now you're upset. Bro, why did my teammate pick this dog shit map? What are they thinking? Oh my god. You are now upset specifically at a teammate, and you're going into the game on the wrong foot. Being able to see the odds and who picked what is also disastrous to the mental. The actual behind the scenes stats to what maps you're gonna play is a little more complicated than it looks, but what the player sees are 3 choices with 100% possibility able to be divided up between them. In the worst case scenario, 90% of the lobby is on one map, and the 10% loner gets their pick chosen. That feels so much worse than what just appears to be a truly random pick, and now you're going into the lobby mad at one of your teammates. On the other hand, the player that likes the less popular maps very rarely gets to play on them because the odds are not really in their favor. Sure, it could happen every once in a while, but the majority of the time, it's just not gonna go their way. Ironically, having 0 say over the maps often feels like you have more agency than that 10% that you're allotted in the new system. And again, the actual stats of drawing the maps in the lobby pool is much more complicated than that, but it doesn't matter. What the player sees, and more importantly what they feel, matters 10 times as much as anything else. If the experience feels bad, it is going to be bad. Listen, at this point in the video, you might be thinking to yourself, I thought this guy said he liked map voting and he's just dunking on it the whole way through. The thing is that I do like it. in theory. There are definitely maps in this game that suck, and I haven't played on some of my least favorites like Numbani since the update, and I'm not really upset about that. But at the same time, I also think you should be forced out of your comfort zone, especially in a multiplayer competitive game. Part of the appeal of these games is to push yourself through challenges both in and out of the actual lobby. Playing on maps that you might not like as much, or maybe you aren't as good on, is part of the experience. And again, hero bands do a lot to help with some of these maps. I actually don't really mind Circuit anymore because you can just permaban Widow. It opens up more opportunities to play on maps that you wouldn't like before. I think a lot of this community sentiment comes down to everything about Overwatch, and really a lot of games in generals with metas, being sticky. That being, the general player base takes a lot longer to move on and get with what's actually meta, what's actually good, bad, frustrating, whatever. Take, for example, Freya, who's still getting banned in a majority of the games that I play. She is not nearly as good as she was. I don't even think she's that annoying to begin with, yet people still ban her all the time. And to be honest with you, I think once the mid-season hits, we're going to see this with Flashpoint as well, because Flashpoint maps are getting reworked, but I bet that a majority of the people are still going to be banning those maps or picking other ones because, in general, they've been conditioned to not like Flashpoint. Most of the time with metas and stuff, community sentiment will shift, but when you literally cannot play on those maps that you think are bad, then there's no way to prove to yourself that they might not be as bad as you once thought. So it might take a lot longer to get people to understand which maps aren't nearly as bad as they once were. I think you should be forced to try things, play things, reevaluate your relationship with them at all times. That is especially true for the maps in this game. Map voting eliminates this in some regards. So I want to propose a couple of solutions that are pretty simple, but I would hope are a little more effective here. It's just two. Number one being remove or replace the completely random option. If you made all of your choices, whether that's 3 or you remove the random option entirely down to 2, and you base it on only what you haven't played, you will much more likely end up playing those maps that you aren't fond of. It only happens every once in a while, and of course you still get to choose from whatever options are there, so you get to do a little bit of damage control. I would say that making the best out of a bad situation feels a lot better than accidentally picking a bad map when in theory you could have gotten a good map. And number 2, they need to significantly increase the weight of your least played recent maps. Whether that means accounting for maps played over a larger amount of games, or pushing down the odds of maps that you played and voted for recently, I don't really care. There just needs to be something that makes it less likely to draw those maps that you play on more often in the pool. I'm sure many of you are enjoying the limited map pool, and to be honest, I am as well. But I think that this iteration of map voting has lost something that's core to Overwatch along the way. There is a thing as too much agency in my opinion, and I have much more faith in the developers who have been tailoring this game for a decade over the larger population of the player base. You're entitled to your opinion. Obviously, I don't want to take that away from you, but in my opinion, I don't think that you should be playing a competitive game solely to have comfort in all areas. There needs to be some sort of conflict with the game. That's what makes it interesting. Ideally, down the line, we can get even more map reworks. They seem to be really inclined to do that, and I'm excited to see what the Flashpoint ones show up as. But for right now, thank you for listening to my ramblings, and I do hope to see you on the next one, even if I insulted you a little bit. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Mwah, mwah, yep, mwah. All right, again, thank you guys so much for watching. Hey, I have a second channel. Now, it doesn't have any videos on it yet, but there will be one very soon. The filming is almost done for it. That is going to be Lane's Domain. You can find it down below. Please check that out. I will promise I'll let you know when it comes out, okay? Twitch.tv/LaneHemingway. I don't stream very often, but when I do, that is where you're going to find me, or you'll find me here on this YouTube channel. I do have a Discord down below. You can join that as well. Please like and subscribe and do all of that stuff as well. I am working on some bigger projects here, but I wanted to get some extra stuff out. I think my next video is going to be about blocking, the characters that block in Overwatch. If that interests you, please subscribe. Do all of that, whatever. Okay, thank you guys so much. Also, trying out this green screen thing. I'm trying to get like a real green screen so I can like stand up and do stuff. This is like a test run. So thank you for bearing with me if this video is a little weird and a little different than what I'm used to. That's because I'm trying some stuff out. So, okay, bye-bye. Thank you guys. Peace.